And we would be getting letters from New Zealand and Australia and things like that. I suppose it was Radio Skip at the time, but it made us feel good. We're getting out across the world, you know. So I'm glad that the station is really doing well. Clinton deserves a good station, and I know this is going to be a better station because of the new improvements.
That was Bill Ward on this WHOW 75th anniversary feature.
There's nothing like hearing the songs you love on local radio with no subscriptions and no monthly fees. But there's a new bill in Congress that could stop the music. If passed, this bill would tax your local radio station simply to play the music you love. Text LOCAL to 52886 and ask Congress to support local radio stations. Help us keep you connected to the music, local news, weather, and traffic that you need each day. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Hi there, I'm here to tell you a little about this new program called Safe to Help Illinois.
Maybe you know somebody who's being bullied, or worse, thinking about hurting themselves or others. If you don't feel safe telling an adult about the things that are happening around you, check out Safe to Help.
Safe to Help is not about snitching or getting someone in trouble. It's about helping one another out.
You can call, you can text.
You can download the free mobile app, and it's all over social media.
So what do you say? Let's give it a try.
Brought to you by IEMA.
News time is 9 minutes after 7 o'clock here on this Wednesday morning. Top of the morning from the newsroom of Regional Radio and DeWittDailyNews.com. I'm Seth Lawrence with this expanded local newscast brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters in the morning show. Streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. During the winter months, many school leaders turn their minds towards the summer months, and that includes school administrators. Dr. Hillary Stanifer is the Blue Ridge School superintendent who notes summer school was started a couple of years ago to help students who had fallen behind due to online learning and the COVID pandemic. She says she has been talking to the administration and teachers to see if summer school was something worthwhile to continue.
Yes, we've spent the last month or so looking forward into the summer months and trying to figure out, we don't want to just do the same programming that we have for the last couple of months last years, just because we've done that for the last couple of years. We want to really look and evaluate to make sure that it was worthwhile.
Dr. Stanifer indicates the district is looking to implement a new summer school curriculum that has the potential to be more flexible. Work could be completed independently by the student, then reviewed by the teacher.
We do have a new program called iReady, and we are looking at the possibility of doing a little bit more flexible summer school programming where some of it might be done by a student independently at home, and then maybe making some connections with teachers on a individually scheduled basis with a teacher at school. Some of our ideas are connecting with either a STEM club or a 4-H club and complementing that with some of our iReady work for some of our intermediate grades. So those are some of the ideas that were thrown around, and we're trying to connect that with teacher availability too.
Summer school would potentially be held a few weeks before the start of the new school year, with an emphasis placed on core concepts students need to strengthen before starting the next grade level.
Right now, it's kind of looking at the few weeks right before the school year starts and kind of a prep for most critical concepts to be ready for the grade coming up. That's where our focus is right now.
Dr. Stanifer hopes to have a decision on summer school finalized within the next few months. If you are a parent of a picky eater or have questions about what to feed a newborn, the U of I Extension encourages you to check out one of their websites. Caitlin Mellendorf, U of I Extension nutrition educator for DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties, indicates Feeding My Baby is a website launched a few years ago by a fellow Extension nutrition educator. It offers tips for homemade baby food as well as research on baby-led weaning.
Infant-led weaning, and this is a newer approach to feeding babies that lets them take charge. So you might put a piece of food in front of them and let them touch it, mush it up, take it to their mouth, kind of gum on it, because most young babies aren't going to have teeth yet, so they're going to just kind of gum on it, and letting them kind of learn and explore their food rather than the adult or the parent spoon feeding their kid. And this is a really interesting approach because it gives kids a lot more agency over what they're putting in their mouth. It is also shown to help with picky eating.
Mellendorf says baby-led weaning is best started when your baby is ready to start eating solid food. She gives an example of how you might introduce food to your baby.
If you've got a pretty young kid, so if you're gonna put an apple in front of them. Now you're not going to give them, especially a young baby, a really hard apple. What you might do for something like a 6-month-old to a 9-month-old, you might cut that apple in half, peel off the skin of the apple, peel out the core and the seeds, and you're going to cook it. So maybe you can microwave it, you can put it in a pot of water just to soften it up. And then you're going to offer that apple to your 6 to 9-month-old, and they can just kind of gum on it. It might be soft enough for the apple that they can swallow some small pieces. And I know that hearing this might really scare some parents. They're thinking, what if my little baby chokes on this? But actually, the bigger the piece, the safer it tends to be. So something like grapes, I think a lot of parents have heard about being really a choking hazard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's partially because it's a small piece of food. It's very round, which can unfortunately get caught in the baby's airway. So actually something really large, like a half of an apple that's soft and cooked, is a good way for kids to explore food.
6 months is generally when babies are ready to transition from formula and breast milk to solid food. Mellendorf notes every baby is different, with some ready before or after 6 months. She says there are signs, though, to be on the lookout for to know if your baby is ready.
Now, another question is my baby ready to eat? And so the general thought is about 6 months is when we might transition away from breast milk and formula over to solid foods.
Mm-hmm.
But you might have a baby that is a little bit more ready at maybe 5 months, or you might have a baby that's not really so ready until maybe like 8 months. And that's totally normal. That can be very normal for every baby. It's just a little bit different. But you are going to want to look for what we call signs of readiness, that they're ready to do this transition from formula and breast milk over to solid foods. And so you're looking for things like that they can sit up, maybe with a little bit of their own support. So they might be in a chair, of course, but they can kind of hold themselves up. They can lift their heads really, really strongly. They're interested in food. So if you put that half of a cooked apple in front of them, they want to touch it. They want to reach for it. They're interested in it. Those are good signs to look for and go, maybe my baby wants to try solid foods now. So whether that's spoon feeding or trying out baby-led weaning.
If you are worried about your baby or child not eating or is an extremely picky eater, Mellendorf recommends consulting a pediatrician nutritionist or a feeding therapist.
There are dietitians and feeding therapists. So dietitians and feeding therapists that focus on infant and child feeding. So if you are struggling with a picky eater, or you're finding that your baby's falling off of their growth curve when they go to doctor's visits, maybe they're not eating as well as they could. So talk with a pediatric dietitian and a feeding therapist that specializes in infant and child feeding to really get them on solid footing, make sure that they're growing well, make sure that brain's developing really nicely. So you can always go to visit one of those through your local provider.
The website blog, Feeding My Baby from Cradle to Table, can be accessed by visiting feedmybaby.extension.illinois.edu. Recently on regional radio, we've heard from area superintendents on their thoughts about the sex ed mandate that wasn't taken up for a vote in the lame duck session. And today we hear from a local lawmaker and get her thoughts on the future of the bill. Senator Sally Turner from Lincoln reminds us the curriculum was passed last year, and over 70% of school districts in Illinois decided to opt out of the curriculum. The mandate was a way for progressive Democrats to push their agenda.
70% of the schools didn't implement the portion of it that they wanted implemented. And Senator Villavam, somewhere in the collar counties or up in Chicago, I'm not sure where he's from, he brought that out, wanted to make sure that they were teaching that In an executive committee, most of the senators, all of the Republicans, I should say, but most of the Democrat senators didn't want to see that come out, that mandate. And it was voted out of executive committee, but never saw the light of day on the floor. And I think most of the reason for that is some of those Democrat senators did not want to burden the teachers anymore. And also, I think they heard from their constituents that said, enough is enough. We'll teach our kids at home what they need to know.
Senator Turner applauds the religious community for lobbying and protesting the mandate due to the graphic nature of the curriculum. She believes the bill will not be called for a vote with the new legislature due to pushback from Democrats at the committee level.
When I read that, one of those books that would have been allowed, when I looked at that, I thought, heck, I don't even know what half those things are.
Yeah.
And I'm 60 years old. So, yeah, it's just unbelievable. And I put the call out to a lot of our religious community who did a great job of just calling the president's office and other legislators that would have brought that forth. And they did a really good job. And so hopefully they were able to be a part of stopping that from coming forward. But, you know, so I just don't think that we're going to see that rear its ugly head in this next session, just because it wasn't greeted with open arms in that executive committee by all the Democrat senators.
The purpose of the mandate, Senator Turner believes, is because some lawmakers felt not enough schools were using the curriculum. She notes in her previous district, only one school chose to use just portions of it.
I have no clue how some of these folks come up with these things and the ideas in their heads. Sometimes it's just like, oh, where did that come from? So I will say that, but I think probably the reason why they were bringing it back out was only 70% of the schools in Illinois decided to use that curriculum and teach that. In my past district that I just had, only one school in my entire district decided to use some of that curriculum. So I think it was, again, just a way that they were using to push an agenda that they wanted to be done without looking at what the best interests of kids or teachers were.
Area superintendents were glad to see the mandate not be voted on in the lame duck session, but many did not share the same sentiment regarding the mandate's future as Senator Turner does. It is 21 minutes after the hour here on this Wednesday, coverage of the morning show brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters. And we stream to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin insurance agent in Clinton. A break here, plenty more to get to coming your way on the WHOW morning show.
At Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Baum Motor Company in Farmer City, our job is to help you and solve your transportation needs. This is Scott Baum. Both in Clinton or Farmer City, we'll listen and find options for a different vehicle, or we'll give you repair options to keep that car, truck, or SUV safe and trouble-free so you can continue with your busy schedule. If it has to do with transportation, we're here to help. Visit our full-service team today in Clinton or Farmer City. Baum Chevrolet Buick, right from the start.
News time is 22 minutes after the hour here on this Wednesday. Again, I'm Seth Lawrence with you folks today for this expanded local newscast. An Illinois appellate court Tuesday upheld a temporary restraining order on enforcement of the state's 3-week-old law banning semi-automatic weapons, enacted largely in response to the mass shooting at an Independence Day parade in the Chicago suburb of Highland Park. A 3-judge panel for the 5th District Appellate Court affirmed the restraining order issued January 20th by a circuit judge in Effingham County. Illinois Attorney General Kwame Rowell, a Democrat, plans to appeal the ruling to the state Supreme Court. The Protect Illinois Communities Act prohibits the manufacture or possession of semi-automatic handguns and rifles. Those who owned them before January 10th's effective date of the law must register them with the Illinois State Police by January 1, 2024. Hundreds of gun owners, merchants, and advocates filed suit in Effingham, seeking the restraining order. They argue the legislature improperly enacted the law and that by exempting some classes of people, law enforcement, corrections officers, retired police officials, deny potentially millions of other gun owners of equal protection under the law. Plaintiff's attorney Thomas DeVore, a Republican who ran unsuccessfully last fall for state's attorney general, says the equal protection argument under the Constitution's 14th Amendment was persuasive in upholding the restraining order. The law became a priority for Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker and Democrats who control the General Assembly after the Highland Park shooting, which left 7 dead and injured 30. Illinois is the 8th state, along with Washington, D.C., to restrict such guns. The Attorney General's office says it would seek an expedited schedule of proceedings from the state's high court. DeVore says the restraining order applies only to the plaintiffs, which include gun dealers that may continue selling the weapons, and that it must be followed by all circuit courts in the state, even outside the 5th District, unless an appellate court elsewhere holds differently. Republicans in the Illinois House are proposing reforms to the state budget-making process. The GOP says they want to be included in drafting a budget for the new fiscal year and will focus on creating jobs, tax policy reforms, and more. House Republican leader Tony McCumbee says negotiations need to be transparent.
The budget process should not be so difficult, and it should be bipartisan. The budget bills do not need to come forward in the final hours of the session with little or no Republican input, and certainly the budget should not be used as a political football year after year.
She's appointed Macomb Representative Noreen Hammond to the House Republicans' budget team. Their reforms include
adopting a revenue estimate and budget based off of that revenue estimate, holding real, meaningful budget hearings which respect minority voices and provides for public input and transparency.
GOP lawmakers are also calling for more budget hearings that include input from the minority party and the public. Ameren, Illinois has filed paperwork with the Illinois Commerce Commission seeking a rate adjustment that would increase the average household bill about $6 per month on the electric side of the business and just slightly more than that for natural gas. Specifically, the utility is asking for about $160 million on the natural gas side of the company and about $435.6 million over 4 years for electric. Ameren, Illinois spokesman Tucker Kennedy explains.
On the electric side, it's really about preparing that grid for the transition to clean energy. The gas side is about complying with federal requirements and just making sure we have the most efficient and cost-reliable energy delivery system that we can have.
The estimated cost to electric consumers is based on monthly usage of about 10,000 kilowatts, while the natural gas estimate of $668 per month is based on monthly usage of about 745 therms. The Illinois State Fair has started to reveal grandstand acts for the summer. Rebecca Clark is the State Fair manager and says it's going to be a big act.
We are excited to bring Grammy Award-winning artist Maren Morris to Springfield this August. She'll be here Saturday, August 19th.
Tickets are not on sale yet, but the fair says they'll be up for sale in the spring. This is Identity Theft Awareness Week, and Illinois Attorney General Kwame Rowell's office has some tips to protect yourself. Identity theft can happen to anyone, so it's important to safeguard your personal information, says Susan Ellis, the Attorney General's consumer protection head. That means not using public Wi-Fi to shop online or conduct banking, setting up separate usernames and passwords for different accounts, and being careful with your mail, even junk mail.
You can get those credit card offers sent to you in the mail. You got to make sure that you tear those up, shred them, because someone could grab that and change the address and might be able to get an account opened in your name.
She also recommends checking your bank statements and credit reports for any unusual activity.
You can get one free report every year from the 3 major credit reporting agencies. And to do that, you can go to annualcreditreport.com and sign up for it, and it is free.
Ellis says if you do become a victim of identity theft, you can file a complaint online at illinoisattorneygeneral.gov. She says you should also think about creating a 2-step authenticator on apps like PayPal and Venmo. Friday is Go Red Day, and OSF healthcare locations across the state, among other healthcare organizations, will celebrate by wearing red to call attention to heart health. Connie Wessels is a registered nurse with OSF Healthcare in Central Illinois and explains the Go Red is actually an important acronym for health.
Yes, this Friday, it's always the first Friday in February, and I believe it's February 3rd, is our Go Red for Women Day. And it's by the American Heart Association. And actually what the Go Red means, it's a platform that the American Heart Association uses to increase the awareness of women and heart disease and heart health. So actually what the Go Red means is the go get your numbers. So we want you to go ask your provider for your cholesterol, your triglycerides, and then also make sure that you get your blood pressure checked as well. And the O in that is own your lifestyle. So maybe you need to lose weight, exercise more, heart healthy eating, just a few things for a healthy lifestyle. So that is this Friday. And we always wear red. And I know we just talked about women, but actually heart disease is the number one cause of death in men and women.
It's not only healthcare workers who are invited to celebrate Wear Red Day. Everyone is invited to wear red Friday to call attention to heart health. February is Heart Health Month nationwide. Coverage of news brought to you by Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton, your Silverado headquarters, and we stream to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance.
With SRN News, I'm Greg Clugston in Washington. It's another day of dangerous road travel and interrupted air travel in the U.S. because of an ice storm in Texas and parts of the South. More than 1,800 flights are canceled today, according to FlightAware.com. Texas also reported several thousand power outages. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has announced plans to block state colleges from having programs on diversity, equity and inclusion, and critical race theory. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in the Philippines for talks on deploying larger numbers of U.S. forces and weapons in more Philippine military camps. China's increasingly aggressive actions against Taiwan and in the region have been causing concern here in Washington. Look at Wall Street. Dow futures are down 144 points. NASDAQ futures off by just 14. This is SRN News.
With SRN Sports, I'm Jim Bartow. A person with knowledge of the pact tells the Associated Press that the Denver Broncos have agreed to a deal with the New Orleans Saints to hire Sean Payton as their head coach. The person says the Broncos will send a first-round pick in this year's draft and a future second-rounder to the Saints in order to get Payton in Denver. The Saints will send a third-round pick to the Broncos. Payton stepped down as the Saints coach last year but remained under contract with the team. D'Amico Ryans has been hired as coach of the Houston Texans, giving him his first head coaching job and bringing him back to the place where he started his playing career. Ryans joins the Texans from the San Francisco 49ers, where he spent the past 2 seasons as their defensive coordinator. Atlanta Falcons coach Arthur Smith has continued to reshape his defensive staff by hiring Jerry Gray as the assistant head coach for defense. The 60-year-old Gray had been Green Bay's defensive backs coach. This is SRN Sports. Longtime University of California women's swimming coach Terry McKeever has been fired following an investigation into alleged harassment, bullying, and verbally abusive conduct. McKeever led the Golden Bears to 4 NCAA team titles over 29 years. She coached the U.S. women's swim team at the Olympics in 2012, the first woman to serve in that role. Batting champion Jeff McNeil and the New York Mets have finalized a $50 million 4-year contract that prevents a salary arbitration hearing. The deal includes a $15.75 million club option for 2027. A two-time All-Star, McNeil led the majors with a .326 batting average last season. Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers says he does not expect to make a decision on whether to play next season until after the Super Bowl. The 39-year-old Rodgers has said he is still making up his mind on whether he wants to return to the Packers for a 19th season, retire, or request a trade. This is SRN Sports.
Time now for a look at sports. I'm Seth Lawrence with this report. In a game heard on 95.9 FM WEZC and at DeWittDailyNews.com, a second quarter where Monticello logged 4 points and 0 field goals saw Trey Welter come alive with 13 of his game-high 16 points in the second half, leading Monticello past Rantoul 47-39 in Illini Prairie Conference high school boys basketball action from Rantoul. Monticello opened the game strong, 12-6 after the first, thanks to 5 early points from Tyler Blythe and a Welter three-pointer, but the well dried up and the athleticism of Rantoul took over as the Eagles posted a 14-4 second quarter, including a 9-2 run to open the frame. Welter opened the third, though, scoring the first 9 points to help Monticello go up 27-25 at the 3:40 mark of the third. The two sides went back and forth the rest of the way. Monticello led 30-29 after 3 quarters. In the fourth, Welter hit a jumper, then found Drew Shepard on 2 nifty passes to put the Sages up 36-35. Monticello went just 4 for 9 from the foul line in the first half, but made just enough free throws down the stretch to put the game away. Welter's 16 points earned him the Serve Pro of Piatt-DeWitt County's player of the game. Blythe finished with 9 for Monticello. Zeus Brundage led Rantoul with 12 points and a game-high 8 boards. Jackson Atkins had 11 points. The Eagles fall to 7-18 overall and 2-3 in the Illini Prairie. Monticello moves to 14-9 overall and 4-3 in conference action. The Sages are off until Saturday when they travel to Williamsville for the Illini Prairie Sangamo Conference Shootout, taking on Petersburg. Porta. Tip time Saturday is 1:30. Hear the action on 95.9 FM WEZC and online at DeWittDailyNews.com. The Maroa-Forsyth Trojans started fast, then shut down Illini Central in the third quarter to roll to a 64-48 Sangamo Conference High School boys basketball victory Tuesday from Mason City. Grant Smith scored 8 of his 16 points in the first quarter, helping stake the Trojans to a 23-17 lead after 1. The Trojans held its 6-point advantage going to the break 36-30. The Cougars struggled in the third, and Maroa-Forsyth pulled out to a 53-32 lead after 3 and were uncontested the rest of the way. Smith's game-high 16 points paced a balanced scoring attack for the Trojans. A.J. Massey drilled 5 3-pointers on his way to 15 points, and Caden Maurer added 10. The Trojans go to 12-12 overall and even the Sangamo mark at 2-2. Maroa-Forsyth will host Athens on Friday night in a Sangamo Conference tilt, then take on Champaign St. Thomas More Saturday in the Illini Prairie Sangamo Conference Shootout at Williamsville High School. Matthew Mayer scored 16 points to lead 4 players in double figures as Illinois beat Nebraska 72-56 Tuesday night. The 16-6 Illini won its 7th game in its last 8 tries to go to 7-4 in the Big Ten. Nebraska has now lost 4 straight. Illinois pulled away with a 15-4 run for a 63-54 lead with 5:29 to play. Sincire Harris scored 6 points with a dunk during the stretch, and Coleman Hawkins had 4 points for Illinois. Mayer was 4 of 14 from the floor and made 3 of Illinois' 5 3-pointers. Terrence Shannon Jr. had 13 points. Jaden Epps had 12. Coleman Hawkins had 10 with 8 boards. Harris also had 8 points. Sam Griesel scored 21 points on 7 of 7 shooting to lead Nebraska. The Cornhuskers shot just 40% and turned it over 19 times. Nebraska opened the game on a 12-5 run, but Illinois led 38-37 at the intermission and forced 3 turnovers out of the gate in the second half to go up 48-41. Nebraska answered a pair of 3-pointers by Kasey Tomenga and one from C.J. Wilcher for their last lead at 50-48. With 12 minutes left, Illinois will play at Iowa on Saturday. Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers says he does not expect to make a decision on whether to play next season until after the Super Bowl. The 39-year-old has said he is still making up his mind on whether he wants to return to the Packers for a 19th season, retire, or also make a request to be traded. The 4-time MVP has noted the possibility the Packers may want to move him, but the first decision is whether he wants to play at all. Rodgers was the league MVP in 2020 and 2021, but did not perform well this season while playing with a broken right thumb and dealing with the absence of star wideout Devontae Adams, who was traded in the offseason to the Las Vegas Raiders. Rodgers had his lowest passer rating as a starter and threw 12 interceptions, his highest single season total since 2008. The Packers went 8-9 and missed the playoffs to end a string of 3 straight NFC North titles. Rodgers was asked if he would decide on his plans and call the Packers, who would then let him know what they're thinking, and Rodgers said, "I think so." Get sports anytime from your computer or mobile device at DeWittDailyNews.com.
This is staff meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki with your regional radio forecast. Mainly clear skies today with highs around 30. Southwest winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy tonight, lows around 21. Lots of sunshine tomorrow, highs around 40. Daytime highs approaching 21 Friday, under sunny skies. 39 Saturday. Hear weather twice an hour or online anytime at DeWittDailyNews.com. Currently, it's 9 above.